Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever it is. Today I'm going to read a story and tell a story really from my book again, The Timing of Chicken Feathers. And this is actually the story that made a real difference for me. Mainly because what happened was I was teaching about 20 or 30 clown classes or balloon classes or that kind of thing every year for a bunch of years. I was training a lot of people. And every year I would tell a particular story. I told a lot of stories, right? But one of the stories I would tell is what I called the elephant story. And so one day I thought, that would be a fun story to write down. So I wrote it down. And it made me think, I've got a lot of good stories that I tell. And most of the stories in this book I've told over and over again to people in class, right? Because we're talking about being a clown, being children's entertainers. So that was years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. I don't know, a long time ago that I decided to try to write it down. It took a long time before it became this, a long time. But now it's this, and I'm very proud of it. There are a lot of good stories in here, amazing stories, heartwarming stories, silly stories, but it talks a lot about my philosophy and the goal of bringing joy to people. And so today I'm going to read the elephant story. I'm actually not going to read it all because it's fairly long. I don't know, it's 7 or 8 pages. But I am going to read the beginning of it. Because the beginning of it is not the story. And I think the beginning of it is important too, because it's part of Ronald McDonald, right? It's part of being Ronald McDonald. So here we go. The elephant story. Now there are pictures in here. I'll put the actual pictures up here so you can see it as we go along. There is an international corporation that works very hard to fool its customers, especially the children. This is a very large corporation that has a series of television commercials that star a wonderfully zany clown hero whose name is Ronald McDonald. This fact is well known. Children see Ronald McDonald on television every day, or at least my kids did, and I did. He's been to the moon, he's worn zany haircuts, he has a host of friends, and usually winds up at the company restaurant treating everybody to lunch. What is not known is that when this star makes personal appearances all across the world, it's not the same guy that does the television commercials. The corporation has a staff of well-trained imposters who keep this secret in just about every large city in America and most of the large cities across the world. There's a group of about 180 men here in America, more worldwide, who work very hard to keep this secret. The group of people feel very strongly about the character of Ronald McDonald, and they get paid fairly well to do what they do. And they also get certain perks, like being treated like a star by many adoring children. Most of these clowns give their all to the character. They give their time, their energy, their love, their attention, sweat, and sometimes blood to make sure that Ronald portrays the very best parts of the human character. This job is pretty much the best part of what we got into clowning for in the first place. Believe me, it's not the money. It's the love of people and knowing that joy is valuable that keeps us suiting up for work. When I got my first chance to play Ronald, I was young. I was only 20. But with a relatively large amount of clowning experience for my age. I had good skills and had performed at a fair amount of events and was a pretty strong performer. They gave me a 3-ring binder of information about the character so that I could read up on the job. I learned how to apply the makeup, then they provided me with the costume, and I read about certain basic things not to do, of course. I couldn't do anything appropriate to anyone, anytime. I shouldn't make fun of anyone or do anything completely stupid. But one of the most interesting facts I found out is that it's forbidden for Ronald to talk about the food products in any way at a live appearance. That is sheer marketing genius. The powers that be knew that the character would automatically sell their products without saying a word. But by forbidding him to talk about the food, they kept him from falling prey to being a simple commercial barker. No one could point the finger at Ronald and say that all he did was sell food to kids, because when he appears in person, he never sells food to anyone. So what we did was we did school shows, character shows, reading shows, safety shows, exercise shows, recycling shows. We were the star of the parade. We did shows at the restaurants, but we didn't sell the food. We were doing magic and fun and juggling and balloons and hugs. Greet and meets is what we called it, where hugs and handshakes, long before, the COVID thing. However, I have to say that my first two appearances as Ronald, I didn't really feel comfortable acting as the television star. I basically felt like I was Dooney, wearing the clothes of Ronald and trying to act like him. Then I attended my first national seminar at Hamburger University in Chicago, where I met my personal hero, AJ. He was a lifelong carny and a circus clown, and he is the father of the National Field Ronald McDonald program. He basically made the program what it is today, or at least in my perspective. On our first day of classes, AJ asked us all of us new Ronalds, to participate in an exercise of shouting out the qualities that we felt a clown should possess or portray. He then wrote out the answers on a list on the chalkboard. I still use this exercise in my classes today. We came up with things like friendly, funny, silly, happy, crazy, helpful, entertaining, talented, smiling, fun, colorful, zany, coordinated or uncoordinated, magical, heroic, loving, professional. Next, he asked us to call out qualities that were not considered clown-like. Things such as hateful, hurtful, angry, nasty, spiteful, bullying, threatening, serious. You get the idea. Finally, AJ pointed out that clowns are simply examples of the most positive aspects of the human character. Obviously, we're all human, and we don't portray these good characteristics all the time. However, when we are in face, anytime after our makeup is on, we should do our very best to try and act like a good human. Therefore, the corporation was not asking us to actually be the Ronald from the television commercials. They knew we could never be that. What they wanted us to do was to be the most talented people possible at portraying the best of the human condition. We were asked to commit to this ideal, and that's all. If we made the decision to do our best to be true clowns, then then we would meet the goal of portraying Ronald McDonald. From that moment on, I've never had any problems with answering the question, are you the real Ronald McDonald? The answer is always, of course I am. There's only one. So during the years I spent traveling to Alaska, which is where I did most of my work as Ronald, which is another story. I was living in Washington at first, and then Oregon, and then in San Diego for most of the time. How did I get to travel to Alaska? Well, I did, and that's in the book. But this story was about 1988, I think. Trying to remember all of this. So the way they had it set up was Ronald would arrive into town, I would arrive into town before the Golden Days celebration. It was a week-long celebration in the middle of summer, celebrating the discovery of gold. And the first thing that happened, the first community event, was a kiddies parade, where the kids would decorate their wagons and their floats, and they'd bring their dogs, and they would all march in the parade. Now, this was a small town, really. I mean, at the maximum, they had 3 McDonald's in 2 different cities close together. So pretty small. But all the kids would show up to the kiddies parade. So when I got there, Ronald was the grand marshal of the kiddies parade. So the first event we did when I got there was start the Kiddies Parade, walk in the Kiddies Parade, do a show at the end of the Kiddies Parade, greet all the kids, and hand out goodies. So imagine being a commercial entity that says, hey, how would you like your character to be our grand marshal of the parade, do a show after the parade, see all the kids at the parade. I mean, it was literally a marketing, gift. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I did that every year for many years. So this year, they had a circus in town. And the circus, being smart, thought, hey, we have a baby elephant. Why don't we bring the baby elephant to the Kiddies Parade? And they did. And it was great. I mean, people really went all out. They would decorate wagons as jail cells, because part of the Golden Days thing is you got thrown in jail and you had to pay a fine to get out, which was a fundraiser thing. Or you would arrest somebody and send them in jail. And, I mean, it was a total community thing. So anyway, we got to the end of the parade. And normally at the end of the parade, there's some time to kill before I start my show, because the judges have to tally who won what, the best float and the best costume and whatever. And so while I was waiting to do my show, my handler comes up and he says, hey, the elephant's here. You want to get up on top of the elephant as a part of your opening for your show. And, at that moment, so the thing about being Ronald is you're responsible for everything. No matter what happens, you're going to be the guy responsible, right? So I had to think what could go wrong, right? And I couldn't really think of anything right at that time. So part of the story, part of what I wrote, is that there's an adage, never work with children or animals. And where that comes from are magicians or entertainers who don't like working with kids or animals because they will steal the show. They will absolutely steal the show. And I, on the other hand, I work with kids all day long. So let them steal the show. If it's fun and funny, let them steal the show. Let it go off the rails and then bring it back later, right? Because if it's fun and funny, I'm in. So anyway, why not? Let's do it. So here we are. The guy brings up, so here's the thing too. We're on a semi-pro baseball field. The Gold Panners is the name of the team. Semi-pro baseball. I think it was Ty Cobb went through there. A bunch of people went through there. Anyway, so we were told, do not mess with home plate. Don't F with home plate, right? So no problem. So we bring the elephant up, and we are standing just off of home plate. And so I introduced myself. We opened the show. I introduced the trainer. How are you doing? What's your name? What's the name of the elephant? I picked Bobo. I think it was Bobo. And so all the kids wave and clap, give Bobo a big hand of applause. And so he says, all right, you ready to get up? I said, yes, let's do it. And, I got the microphone. And the trainer goes, down, Bobo, down. Bobo doesn't do anything. So we're all kind of waiting. All right, down, Bobo, down. We're all kind of waiting. So, things happen in shows. I'm an entertainer. What the heck? You fill, So one of the things that I do is if something doesn't work, I'll say, okay, kids, maybe they need our help. On the count of 3, let's all yell down, Bobo. And maybe your energy will help it out, right? And usually that does help, whatever that third time around, right? Sometimes it works, right? So we all say on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, down, Bobo, right? The whole crowd, 500 people. So needless to say, we are all looking at that elephant at that moment, right? Right at that moment. And what happened was Bobo doesn't go down. Bobo starts peeing. And it's a lot of pee. I mean, it's an elephant-sized pee. And when I say that, you'd think, they're at a baseball field, they're back. No, no, no. We could all see it. It's like, as round as a quarter, and it's hard stream, right? So what happens was we all start laughing. I mean, everybody's laughing. It was funny. It was the timing was part of it. It was so damn funny. And here we are, right? And then, I don't know if you know this about elephants, but it just keeps going, right? It doesn't stop, and it's like, oh my God. And so there's like this whole next wave of laughter, right? And I am looking at my handler, right? So a handler is somebody who's, there to make sure you're on time, to watch the schedule, to pick up your props, to take care of stuff. They're there to help you, right? My handler is laying on the ground laughing. He is no help at all. I'm standing there with the microphone kind of going, and then it just kept going. It just kept going. And then there was like this kind of moment of awe. We were like, man, this is an extraordinary pee. And so then it finally starts tapering off, and we are all still laughing. And then it starts pooping. I have pictures. I'll put it up right next to home plate, basically. Big, huge lumps. So a whole nother wave of laughing, right? Now, if you are at Madison Avenue and you are in marketing and you're working for a large company like McDonald's, you are never going to say, hey, let's go bring an elephant out in front of 500 kids of town and have it pee and poop as entertainment, right? That's not top on their list. But it happened. And here I am. So in the book, I asked this question. What would you say? What would you say at that moment? So what I said was, let it never be said that we here at McDonald's don't go to all the lengths to bring you the best in children's entertainment. It was literally the funniest moment of my entire career. And I don't know if this is in the story. I think it isn't. But years later, I came back to Fairbanks. And this guy came up to me and he said, kind of whispers to me, he goes, "Are you the guy that was there the day of the elephant?" And we both started laughing again. It was like, yes, yes. So anyway, so the way this ends is it talks about the Madison Avenue, and it is, however, since we had no choice, we found ourselves in that moment. The very best course of action is to let the moment happen and make the best out of a bad situation. If I had handled it any other way, been embarrassed or upset, or if I'd been thinking about my corporate image, reputation, then the whole audience would have picked up on that energy and the worst would have been realized. When I say go with the flow, I mean live in the moment, recognize the humor in every situation, accept life on life's terms, and yes, don't forget to have fun along the way. So that's the elephant story. and that's how that book started. So it's a bunch of fun stories, And they're not all about Ronald, right? Because I was a full-time entertainer, balloon man, magician, all of that kind of stuff. But that's what it got started. So anyway, my gift to you today, the book is in the link below the description. My coaching site is in the link below the description. If there's anything I can do to help you with your business, that's what I'm here for. Have a great day and go with the flow, baby. See you later.